U-Haul has perfected the art of screwing you as the customer on every level. Side note here, we love our corporate sponsors, but U-Haul is so horrible that we just had to talk about them. U-Haul, the thing lesbians are accused of bringing to a second date in an offensive joke about gay people being too quick to move in together. But driving down the road in North America is nearly impossible not to see at least one U-Haul truck or trailer passing by. After all, in North America alone, U-Haul is a $4.5 billion company with over 19,500 employees, 21,000 locations, and rents over 176,000 trucks, 126,000 trailers, 46,000 towing devices, and 812,000 rentable storage units. You might assume, like we did with these kind of numbers, that U-Haul is a great company to rent from. Otherwise, how did they grow so large? But as you'll see in today's episode, they are by far the worst company and by far the smallest rental company for a reason. But I don't want to spoil the ending for you, so let's start from the beginning. On U-Haul's website, they claim their company was founded in 1945 by their founders with just $5,000 in their pockets. So far, this is a sweet story of humble beginnings. And by the first 2 weeks, their first trailer, quote, was parked on a service station lot and being offered for rent. They even make the claim how they rented trailers back then for just $2 per day. Their website continues to say how easy they made it for people to move, and how, quote, by the end of 1949, it was possible to rent a trailer one way from city to city throughout most of the United States, and by 1955, throughout most of Canada. But how easy and affordable are they really? On the side of their trucks, painted in bold text, you'll notice they are the only national rental company to list their prices on their trucks at all. But as any rental company or hotel would tell you, prices fluctuate depending on supply and demand. So how does U-Haul actually offer these prices when they are permanently painted on every truck? Well, the short answer we found was they don't. And here is where our journey begins, because my boyfriend Michael and I just moved in together as of June 1st of this year. We signed the lease to our apartment in January and spent the past 6 months planning our move. These 6 months are filled with normal things everyone has to contend with when moving. For instance, budgeting our household so we can afford rent, groceries, and utilities. We went shopping for furniture to build out our living room, our kitchen, and even this brand new TV studio. But as part of our budget, we knew I would need to move all of this equipment 120 miles away from my old house to my new apartment with Michael. So because U-Haul advertised such low prices, and there were so many trucks on the road that we assumed they would have great service, we also budgeted for a U-Haul truck rental. So 2 weeks before our moving day, we reached out to friends and family to see who can help us unload the truck. We were lucky enough to get my father and Michael's brother signed up to help us with that enormous task. And 2 weeks to the day of our move, we did what U-Haul instructed us to do. On the side of all of their trucks, they claim how you should go on uhaul.com and reserve your truck in advance to make it easier. So we did just that. We put in the information of what zip code we were picking our truck up in, let's call this City A, and the zip code of our drop-off location, let's call that City B, and the date of our move. Move on to the next screen where we chose the 15-foot box truck for $126, including rental and mileage. We then chose our pickup location, drop-off location in our destination city, and their safe move rental coverage, just in case we got into an accident, so we wouldn't have to pay for the damages. This was an extra $14, bringing our total to $140 for the truck. Finally, we needed an appliance dolly because, shockingly, TV studio equipment is mega heavy, so it was worth the extra $15 to rent a dolly for that day. This brought our final total, excluding sales tax, to $155 even. Their website makes it incredibly easy to select further add-ons to your order of moving boxes, overpriced packaging tape, and even to hire extra people to help on each end of your move. In our area, it was over $300 per hour for 2 people. For the record, our family members helped for free, and we just bought them pizza afterwards. Keep in mind that if you opt for buying cardboard boxes or packaging tape from UHaul, you don't get those items until you get the truck. So you'll have 24 hours in your rental to pick up the truck, pack all of your stuff in boxes, load it in the truck, drive to the destination, unload, and then drop the truck back off. So this is one of the many ways UHaul makes it seem like they're helping you by offering extra services like boxes and tape, when in fact they offer these items in a clear effort to eat up at your 24-hour rental time, so you need to take extra longer with the truck, allowing them to charge you for an extra day. But since we didn't need any of those items, we went to the checkout screen, and suddenly our total was $192. But where did that extra $37 come from? And why was it added to our bill? Well, their website put on an extra furniture dolly for $12, 2 dozen furniture pads for $20, and a $5 environmental fee, all being suddenly added to our bill without us ever requesting such items. So we took off all of these other extra items ourselves and checked out. At this point, we entered our contact info, our credit card information, and officially made our reservation. Our truck was officially rented and ours for the big moving day. But one thing you wouldn't notice unless you were looking closely is their somewhat deceitful tactic here. At the top of the checkout page, they claim $0 is due today. And this sounds great. Who wants to pay for something now when you can pay for it later? This way, if plans change, you can cancel your reservation and it doesn't cost you anything. That's fantastic, right? Well, at the very bottom in fine print, it says, quote, "You are reserving a 15-foot truck on such and such date. Your preferred pickup location is XYZ. A local U-Haul representative will call you by 6 p.m. the day before to get agreement on and schedule available time, equipment, and location." If you didn't catch that one, you're not alone. For as many contracts as I've signed as a business owner, I missed it too. They pretty much just told us the entire contract they are signing with us is not valid. You see, there's a reason they aren't charging you any monetary value at the time of your reservation. There's a reason they wait for you to pick up your vehicle at a location for you to pay anything on the rental. And that reason is because a contract is only valid if it has a monetary value. With a value of $0 currently, there is no contract between the renter and U-Haul. With a second statement at the bottom, they are further acknowledging that you have not reserved a truck yet. 24 hours before you pick up your rented vehicle, they get to decide where you're going to pick it up at, even if you reserved a certain location already. They get to decide 24 hours prior to your rental if you get the truck you reserved or if you get a smaller truck, a larger truck, or a truck at all. And they get to decide when it's going to be available. Keep in mind, you just reserved a truck for a certain time, location, and specified what you want to be ready and waiting for you when you arrive. But with this fine print, they get to change all of that 24 hours prior to the rental, and without lowering the amount you're paying, because you just agreed to pay a certain price. Strangely, they argue your side of the contract is valid, even though they claim their side is not valid until you pay a monetary value on it. So that's what happened to us. 30 hours prior to our rental, we got a phone call and a text message telling us that our truck was available and we could pick it up at another city. But that city was not our pickup city or our drop-off city. It was an entirely different city 20 miles away from our pickup location, which would be an additional 31-minute drive. Now, if this is your first time renting a vehicle, you might not know this in advance, but when you're picking up a vehicle, you need someone to drive you to that location to drop you off. Otherwise, you would have to leave your car there. So, on this, I had my father drive me to that pickup location to get the truck. But because we were on a tight schedule that day, I knew I couldn't ask him to drive me 31 minutes to a new location and 31 minutes back to my old house to get my equipment, compared to the 2-minute drive we had originally scheduled to the original place I was going to pick this truck up at. Again, U-Haul is trying to eat away at your time here with the vehicle in a seemingly purposeful effort to make you late dropping it off. Worst of all, U-Haul was saying I would have to pay 99 cents per mile for the extra 20 miles they were forcing me to drive from this new pickup location C to my old house in location A. So 30 hours before our moving day, and with a team of family and friends called off of work to help us move, U-Haul was purposefully changing their rental agreement with us just to charge us an extra $20. Meanwhile, adding tons more stress to an already stressful move. This is when I began a day filled with phone calls. For the next 9 hours of my day, I was on the phone with over 15 customer service agents at U-Haul, trying to figure out a solution. Keep in mind, they told us, quote, a local U-Haul representative will call you in their reservation system. But the representative who actually called us the day before was from West Virginia, not Pennsylvania where we're from. So this was hardly a local representative. And over those phone calls, I spoke with representatives from West Virginia, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and several other cities. Over those 9 hours, I was told that my reservation wasn't a reservation at all, because the locations I specified were just preferences. Yes, the reservation you make online only tells them where you would like to pick up your truck and drop it off. It does not reserve those locations. U-Haul kept saying they don't have any 15-foot trucks at the location where I wanted to pick up from, which is why they are sending me 31 minutes away to another pickup location. That's when I called my local U-Haul dealership to see if they truly didn't have any 15-foot trucks in their lot. As it turns out, they did have trucks in their lot, so I called U-Haul corporate back, which is when they proceeded to tell me that just because you see a truck in their rental lot doesn't mean they are actually available for you. Some trucks are reserved for in-town only, where you return it to the same location the same day. Other trucks are reserved for one-way rentals, like us, where we pick it up from one place and drop it off in another. So even if the in-town trucks are not rented that day, they are not available for one-way renters like us. But that makes no sense at all. With over 176,000 trucks, chances are that while we're taking a truck from city A to B, chances are someone else is taking another truck from B to A. Or at the very least, someone would do that in the next few days, considering U-Haul admitted to us that it's a very busy time for them. So with trucks available for in-town rentals only, but not us for some reason, we made U-Haul a proposal. It was Thursday before our moving day on Friday, and I was currently setting things up in our new apartment in City B. So I was in the destination city already and offered to pick up a truck from that destination city that night, drive it back to City A to pick up my equipment, and drive it back to City B on Saturday. But I would only do so if they only charged me for the original one-way miles. According to their representative, I was now driving double the miles, so I would need to be charged for double the miles. And without agreeing to the compromise officially, because they haven't promised to only charge me the original amount of miles yet, they changed my reservation without my approval. So I was now on the phone with another representative, explaining how the change was not approved of yet. And I would have to speak with another representative still from billing in order to not charge me double the miles. Billing sent me to customer service. Customer service said I need to speak to someone in billing, and I was being put in a runaround by a giant company that, keep in mind, has 19,500 employees to keep putting me on hold to speak to. Eventually, it was about 5 p.m. Keep in mind, our phone calls started at 8 or 9 a.m. Luckily, I was able to do other things while on hold with U-Haul. But for any other family moving, the day before you rent a moving truck is usually spent packing. I was lucky in the fact that I packed all of my gear in cases a few days prior to this, and it was ready to go. All I had to do was just go get it with a truck. But that's when suddenly another truck became available in my original pickup destination city, where my old house was. As it turns out, a truck was returned on time and was waiting for me. So U-Haul decided to call me, send me 20 miles away, then change my reservation so I would have to drive an additional 120 miles, all the while knowing a truck was coming back later that day and would be available for me in my original city. So they basically wasted 9 hours of my time and their customer service time just so they can get maybe an extra $20 that they never got anyway. At this point, I didn't trust U-Haul at all, nor should you. So we called the local dealer to ensure he genuinely had a 15-foot truck in his lot ready for us. That dealer made us a deal of a lifetime and offered to rent the truck, the insurance, and the dolly to us for $150 flat rate, with sales tax included, if only we returned the truck to his dealership in City A. But I had to go back to City A to get my car anyway, so it was a pretty sweet deal, to be honest, and one we couldn't refuse. So after 9 hours of phone calls and 15 agents, everything was fine now, right? Well, actually, that was until the next day. Just an hour and a half before we reserved to pick up the truck, we got a call from U-Haul corporate, stating that our truck was no longer available. They claimed that the 15-foot truck that we reserved 2 weeks ago, keep in mind, was just reserved last night to someone else. Now U-Haul told us that we had to pick up our truck from a fourth city, midway between City A and B. This was now the 16th agent from U-Haul I spoke to, all of which were trying to get under my skin as much as possible. So I understandably freaked out and told them they need to stick to the original contract. Even their agent on the phone called our reservation a contract between U-Haul and our company. It was a contract they were clearly breaking again. So after the agent rudely hung up on us without coming to any agreement or compromise, I called my local dealership again and asked him what was going on. Apparently, the person who reserved the truck last night was renting a 10-foot truck, not a 15-foot truck. But because this other customer was paying more than I was, U-Haul decided to upgrade them to my 15-foot truck, even though they did not want a 15-foot truck. Thus, they chose to send me to an entirely different city, and U-Haul corporate was trying to force me to pay for the extra miles. Luckily, my local dealer called U-Haul corporate and changed the other person's reservation to be the 10-foot truck they ordered in the first place. He didn't feel it was fair they were renting these trucks to the highest bidder when I reserved the truck first. He had to fight with corporate for him to get the reservation back from the fourth city in our story and told me to show up at the original time to his dealership. 90 minutes later, we showed up to his dealership. He reminded us that this was now an in-town rental, so we would have to return it to his dealership at the end of the rental period. But because of the excessive hard time U-Haul gave us in this process, he didn't charge us at all for the appliance dolly and only charged us for 100 miles, meaning our total price, including sales tax, was now $152, meaning it was less than the original quote on the U-Haul's website. He promised us that day that he wouldn't charge for any additional miles, because we were doing him a favor in returning the truck to his dealership, instead of dropping it off in the destination city. And because of our favor to him, he would even let us keep the truck for an extra few hours on top of the 24-hour rental period, because he knew we had a long drive back to the City A. But during our pickup process, the dealer spent much of his time on the phone with corporate, fighting with them to get our reservation into his computer. He mentioned to us how corporate sends clients to different cities all the time, without even calling the dealer to ask how many trucks he has on his lot available. So with $4.5 billion in profit, apparently the one thing U-Haul hasn't invested in yet is a tracking system to know where their trucks are and how many are available. To be fair, we only estimated the number of trucks they claimed to have on their website, but who knows if that's even accurate? After all, they didn't know that our dealer had two 10-foot trucks on his lot when they rented our 15-foot truck to a higher bidder. But here is where we learned from others who rented from U-Haul in the past. Online, you will find endless amounts of stories from others who rented a truck from U-Haul which already had damage. Then they dropped it off in the same condition and later got charged extra from U-Haul because corporate thought they were the ones who damaged the truck. That's why it is always a good idea to look over any rental vehicle for damages and take pictures of any damage you see, as well as overall pictures of the vehicle from all four sides. This way you can prove the damage was there at the time of pickup. Because U-Haul is notorious for taking the same truck, charging you for the damages, renting it to someone else the next day, charging them for the same damages, and then doing this over and over and over again. Now, I'm not legally allowed to say this may be how they make their $4.5 billion per year, because only their billing department would know the actual breakdown of how much their profits come from damage fees. So you would have to be put on hold for 20 to 30 minutes and wait for the answer yourself. But what I can say is that we took pictures of our truck before we left the lot. But here is when you, as the renter of a U-Haul, will get a text message. The text kindly asks you to go to their website and confirm that the truck you are renting is in good condition. Now keep in mind, our truck had damage on it prior to picking it up. But here is where a lot of renters get in trouble. If you click the link on the text message by accident or on purpose, you are confirming that the truck is in perfect condition. So any damages seen after you drop it off after your rental period could in theory be charged to your credit card, even if you have photographic proof the damage was there before you picked the truck up. We chose not to click on this link because it was worded so dangerously against us. But at this point, keep in mind the average renter from U-Haul has just either spent hours on the phone the prior day while packing things for their move, or is so furious at U-Haul that they click the link anyway. The average person is so sick and tired of their reservation system changing that they likely won't even look at the text message before clicking on the link because they're so happy to finally have keys in their hands. We were extremely lucky to ignore this dangerous text message. So we drove off with our truck, loaded it up with our gear, and drove to our destination city. Our family members spent hours sweating and exhausting themselves helping us unload our truck into our new apartment. We then drove another 120 miles back the same day, filled it up with gas, and dropped it off in the dealer's lot. Before we left the truck, we took photos of the truck from all sides, from all points of damage, and again took pictures of the gas and mileage counters to prove how many miles we drove and to prove we filled it back up with gas. This is because U-Haul has a policy that you must return the truck with the same level of gas as you picked it up with. So by this point, because I had to drive back as a favor to this dealer, I already paid for double the amount of gas compared to what I originally budgeted for when I reserved the truck for a one-way trip 2 weeks before this. And this is when gas is at an all-time high price in the United States. But we also took pictures of the empty cargo area of the box truck because friends of ours who rented U-Hauls before told us horror stories. For instance, one of them told us he was charged an extra $25 cleaning fee because there was a leaf in the back of the cargo area of the truck. A leaf from a tree. So we needed to cover our butts and ensure we weren't charged that extra fee. That's when we got another text message from U-Haul stating that we needed to sign the truck back in using their website. But the local dealer told us not to do that, and just to leave our key in the key box whenever we returned it. But here is where a major problem in their system lies. At the simple click of a button on their website, I could extend my rental by 24 hours again and again until I didn't need the truck anymore. But if that truck was reserved for someone else tomorrow, that would mess up their entire system, and force that other person to go somewhere else for the rental. At any other rental company or hotel or anything you rent, if you need to extend your rental by another day, too bad. You reserved it for that long, and that's all your contract covers, unless it's not rented to someone else. This is why U-Haul truly did not know the truck we reserved would come back on time for us to pick it up, until it was returned to the dealer, because their website makes it super easy to extend your rental. So again, they are causing their own problems here by trying to make more money per customer. We chose to follow the directions from our local U-Haul dealer and just drop off the keys and leave without signing in on the website. Luckily, U-Haul didn't care about this and just let it go. 2 days later, U-Haul sent me another email confirming my final receipt for $179.30. So our immediate question was, where did this extra $27 come from? Well, even though the local U-Haul dealer promised we could drive the truck up and back without any additional charges, he charged us $27 extra anyway. The good news was we had photographic proof, so we compared the mileage photo we took to what U-Haul's website says for the miles out counter, and compared the photo we took when dropping the truck off to what U-Haul says in their miles in counter on our final receipt. The actual mileage of the vehicle before we started driving it off was about 1 mile more than what our local dealer said it was. The actual mileage at the time of dropping it off was about 1 mile less than the dealer said it was. So at their rate of 99 cents per mile, even though we could prove these odometer readings were incorrect with photographic evidence, at most we would be charged $1.98. But no, even though this local U-Haul dealer promised in writing to only charge us for 100 miles because we were doing him a favor and returning the truck to him, even though we originally planned on only driving one way, he was telling U-Haul to charge us for every mile we drove to return it to him anyway. Keep in mind, if we only drove it one way, as originally planned and scheduled on the U-Haul website, we would have only driven it less than the amount that he promised to charge us for. It was only because we returned it to his dealership which caused the mileage to double. But suddenly we were paying for every little charge. That's when we called U-Haul again. But here is where their system does not care about you anymore. To make or change a reservation, you can click 1 on your phone. To talk to a representative after your rental has been completed, click 3. Prior to our rental, we clicked 1 on our phone and kept getting a message that the next available agent should be with us in an approximate amount of time. And if we wanted, we could press 1 to have them call us back when it's our turn in line, or press 2 to keep holding for the approximate amount of time for the next agent. With any phone call prior to our rental, we were put on hold for no more than 20 to 30 minutes. But if your rental has been completed and you need to speak to someone about their extra charges, then you press 3 in their main menu. Oddly now, they don't give you an approximate amount of time on this side of things, and there is no option we heard to have them call us back when it's our turn in line. We were put on hold now for over an hour and a half, waiting for someone to answer. Our opinion on this is because they know they charged extra fees, so now they're trying to make it as hard as possible for you to dispute the charges. Is this extra $27 really worth you spending your time holding on the phone just to speak with someone who doesn't know the deal the local U-Haul dealership made with you? Or are you just going to hang up and let them charge you whatever they want? Well, we waited for over an hour and a half, but no one ever came to the phone. Once again, we heard the infuriating line how, quote, our representatives are busy helping other families. But even that is part of their horrible tactics here. They know most of the people renting their trucks are families who are in the process of an already stressful time. In fact, Michael and I have only had 2 big fights in the entire year and a half we've been together, and one of them only happened thanks to the stress of this moving process. so it's stressful enough on its own to move. You simply don't need a rental truck company changing which city you pick your truck up in, because they don't know how many trucks they have or where they're located. You don't need a truck company charging you for extra miles. You only had to drive because they told you which city your truck is in, even though there are trucks closer. And you shouldn't have to make sure the local dealer is a stand-up person that won't try to screw you just like corporate did. So even though U-Haul has more locations and more brand recognition because their trucks are bright orange, what are the other options here? Well, Penske has over 365,000 trucks, more than double U-Haul's 176,000. Ryder Truck Rentals has over 240,600 trucks, 70,000 more than U-Haul. And those are just the options if you're going one way from one city to another. If you're moving across town or even 2 towns away, perhaps your best option is a local truck rental company. Seriously, after we made this mistake of reserving our truck with U-Haul, which for some reason isn't a real reservation until you get to pick it up, we checked around with Ryder, Penske, and 2 other local rental companies. Ryder would have charged us $130.95. Penske would have charged us $150. And our local rental companies would have been about $175 to $225. Keep in mind, Penske, Ryder, and the 2 local companies we chose to quote from didn't add extra charges afterwards, and don't have the bad reputation U-Haul has of charging you for damage you didn't cause. Plus, all 4 of them charge you for the rental rate at the time of making the reservation, meaning their contract with you is valid, and your truck is actually reserved. There's no need for a phone call the day before to send you to a different city. If they don't have a truck in your pickup city, they drive one from another location to that pickup spot for you on their dime. And they don't call you 90 minutes ahead of your rental to say they found someone else who wants to pay them more for the same truck. So if I were doing all of this over again, I would gladly go with any of the other companies. I would even go with a local company charging $225, because even though it's more, they won't call me the day prior to change my reservation at a time I'm already stressed. Nowadays, whenever I see a U-Haul truck or trailer driving by, I know exactly the pain that person just went through, and I hope to hell they weren't so stressed from U-Haul that they clicked on that text message saying their truck is in good condition before driving away. I feel their pain because I've went through that pain myself. When I see that big text on the side of their trucks saying to reserve it online prior to getting the truck, I know it's not really a reservation because U-Haul seems to rent their trucks to the highest bidder, according to their representative on a recorded line. I know the big text claiming you could rent this truck for only $19.99 today. Well, I know the only way that's possible is if you don't drive it anywhere. Yes, the prices on the side of all their trucks is strictly the rental, not the mileage. And the mileage is the thing that fluctuates over time according to supply and demand. Thanks to their representatives, I know their fees per mile are different on the weekends compared to weekdays, even though driving a vehicle on a Saturday doesn't cost them any more than on a Tuesday. I also know we rented our truck under our production company's name, which means U-Haul should have treated us better, knowing we're a production company who might need rental trucks more often than a personal family does. We know their customer service has perfected the art of transferring you to a different department and saying you have to speak to someone more local when in fact they're transferring you to someone thousands of miles away. We know they truly don't know how many trucks they have or where they're located because they don't call their dealers to find out. And sadly, we know they don't care about repeat business because after your rental is over and they charged you extra fees, that extra $27 they care so much about, they don't even bother to answer the phone. In fact, in order to get our money back, we had to dispute the charge with our bank because U-Haul still refused to honor their contract with us, and they still maintain to this day the narrative that we put more miles on our truck than we actually did, even though we have written and photographic evidence to prove otherwise. U-Haul has perfected the art of screwing you as the customer on every level. In fact, when we picked up our truck, U-Haul charged our bank account for the agreed upon $152. 2 days after the rental was completed, they charged our bank account a second time with this extra $27 fee for mileage. Mileage we only put on the truck because we were doing a favor to this local dealer. After we called our bank to dispute this second charge of $27 to our account, our bank started investigating these charges. Then, after our bank notified U-Haul corporate that this $27 charge was under investigation, U-Haul took both the $152 and $27 charges off of our account completely. This made our bank stop the investigation into the $27 charge because that $27 charge was no longer there. But seconds later, U-Haul charged our account $179, combining the $152 and $27 into one charge. Basically, this was to stop the investigation into the $27 charge and just charge it again seconds later, but under a different transaction. But again, we noticed this because we were constantly checking our account for updates. So we disputed this amount of the third transaction as well. And it was at this point when we turned everything over to the Attorney General to investigate U-Haul for deceitful business practices, and decided to write this episode to warn other people of how U-Haul truly works. But at the end of a terrible experience with U-Haul, I must say that our experience was completely average and just one of many terrible experiences U-Haul has with their customers. In fact, a leading resource for moving research claims, quote, U-Haul has overwhelmingly negative customer reviews and unreliable reservations, so it may not be your best moving truck option. Even they say U-Haul has, quote, infamously unreliable reservations, while they claim the average local rental price is just $38.70, priced without mileage rates. Keep in mind, the average one-way rental for U-Haul is $1,945 for one truck. It's kind of strange for us at the end of one of our episodes to say a company we've been talking about this entire time truly did not discriminate against us for being LGBTQ. They didn't care that we were a gay couple moving in together, and I highly doubt they knew our production company produced an international TV show. As terrible of an experience as we had with them, and as infuriating as this process was dealing with U-Haul, I must say, for once, we were treated just like every other customer. Too bad for U-Haul, their average customer experience is terrible. Because when it comes to U-Haul, their motto at the top of their website might read, quote, your moving and storage resource. But instead, in this renter's experience, it should read, your stressful and costly place to bid for a truck that isn't available. For the record, we were going to do a series of episodes on moving advice and tips for moving in with your partner. We never planned on covering U-Haul, but then after all the hidden fees and the hours on the phone with their terrible customer service agents, they kind of forced our hand on this one. In fact, after our whole experience and after charging our credit card with extra fees, they had the audacity to send us a request to let them know how they did, as if U-Haul really cares about your opinion. And since they asked for it, I guess here's our review, U-Haul. But if you truly wanted to know how I or millions of other customers feel about U-Haul's service, sadly we cannot show it here. Because we're on TV and we actually have to honor our contracts with broadcasters, if you really wanted to know how we feel about your service, U-Haul, sorry to say, but we're going to have to blur the answer. Anyway, if you want to learn more about the LGBTQ community, check out this episode right here, or subscribe for weekly episodes. If you like what we do and want some awesome merch, please, we need it after this whole U-Haul experience, go to pbrmerchstore.com. As always, I am your host, Professor Pride. Have a gay day, everyone, and bye for now.